Freedom for the streets, freedom for the people preaching peace, freedom for your soul even after you're deceased, freedom of speech, freeing your mind, freedom for the soldiers behind enemy lines.
Covering guidance to mask choice. Action item S8 gives me hope that you understand when I state data that shows mask wearing poses a threat on children's psychology and development because they cannot develop an emotional attachment when faces are hidden behind a mask, and thus leads to anxiety disorders and depression. Also, that you can sympathize when I tell you that from August 2019 to August of 2020, when mask mandates were enforced, Fair Health found a 334% increase in intentional self-harm in children between the ages of 13 and 18. It also gives me hope that you comprehend when I tell you scientific research shows that when important visual speech cues are hidden by masks or voices are muffled, it makes learning difficult for young learners. Second language learners and students with a diagnosed or undiagnosed hearing impairment. It also gives me hope you recognize that mask wearing greatly affects children in our education system that have a pre-existing medical condition. I hope you are familiar with the California Department of Public Health's COVID-19 Public Health Guidance for K-12 schools in California for the 2021 and 2022 school year, and their guidance for the use of face coverings, along with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's recommendations for universal indoor masking, regardless of vaccination status. These publications are just a guidance and recommendation. They are not mandatory. They are not laws.
Tonight, you are going to be discussing and voting on action item S7, the 2021-2022 COVID-19 Safety Plan Updates, which includes the section mask requirement. I want to make sure the school district is on notice that any action taken regarding mandatory masks to attend schools violates federal law. The use of mask wearing to prevent the spread of COVID-19 is issued by the FDA under the Emergency Use Authorization, the EUA, authorizing the use of a personal protective equipment, PPE. How many of you know the criteria that must be followed for issuance of this authorization? Do any of you know that? Do you know what the criteria is? It's such an important decision being made with regard to the health of our children. It's your duty as a board to know. So let me inform you. Mandating the use of a non-FDA approved EUA is illegal and conflicts with Federal Law 21 U.S. Code 360 BBB-3, which provides that the person must be informed of the option to refuse to wear the device. In addition, the person must also be informed of the potential benefits and risks of such use. I know as a parent and a teacher, I was never informed of such an option. As for the informed about the risks, I learned that through my own research. I'm still looking for data that shows the benefits of wearing a mask, just like former CDC Director Dr. Robert Redfield, who stated that there is lack of data and support of the use of masks, and that has been unable to review data that supports the recommendations by the CDC. Okay, you heard that, Doctor? EUA products are by definition experimental and thus require the right to refuse. Under the Nuremberg Code, voluntary consent is absolutely essential, and no one may be coerced to participate in a medical experiment, and such an experiment should be conducted as to avoid all unnecessary physical, mental suffering, and injury. Liability for forced participation in a medical experiment, including possible injury, may be incalculable, and I have just supplied you with many links to studies, journals, and data documenting the injuries of wearing a mask. I also want to remind the board and superintendent that students in grades K through 8 cannot be suspended for disrupting school activities or willfully defying the valid authority of teachers and school personnel. This means that if you send a child home for the day, you are suspending their education for the day, and it is against California Ed Code Section 48900. To remain in office to be counseled on mask wearing, you are violating their right to California Ed Code Article 1, Declaration of Purpose 200 to 201 says that all students have the right to participate fully in the educational process, free from discrimination and harassment.
Thank you very much.
Make the change to action item S7 from mass requirement to mass choice. The applicant state law along with the Northern Code necessitate mass choice for entering all classes. Be the district that all other districts like to be residents of other unified on August 12th.
Freedom for the streets, freedom for the people, preaching peace. Freedom for your soul, even after you're deceased. Freedom of speech, freeing your mind. Freedom for the soldiers behind enemy lines. Freedom for the poor, prisoners of war. Freedom like the waves crashing upon the shore. Freedom for all standing tall. Freedom for the streets, freedom for the people preaching peace. Freedom for your soul, even after you're deceased. Freedom of speech, freeing your mind. Freedom for the soldiers behind enemy lines. Freedom for the poor, prisoners of war. Freedom like the waves crashing upon the shore. Freedom for all standing tall.
The right to mic, to speak on what's inside my mind. Desire not flowing from my mouth when I recite. My rhymes derived from the sands of time. While y'all stand in line, I'm jumping ship and swimming to the nearest land in sight. Turn me up on my mic, that means to amplify. The answers I decide to reveal is highly classified. Ask me why, probably get no reply, cause I'm choking out or busy observing with open eyes. These words dispersing to the darkest depths of where you lurking. Contrary to belief, the hardest step ain't the first one. So keep digging your shoes until it's killing you. If you ain't got know it by now, then get the clue and keep it moving to the next chapter of life. My sacrifices stack up so hard like the passion of Christ. When I'm grabbing this mic, it's like everything's right, whether we right or wrong.